The explosive new film, Flynn, deliver the truth, whatever the cost, exposes secrets behind the government's takedown of General Michael Flynn.
Flynn knew what the intel world had been up to.
He ordered the first audit of the use of contractors. This set off alarm bells.
He told the truth. He was the most dangerous person for Donald Trump to hire. They had to get rid of Flynn.
Flynn, deliver the truth, whatever the cost. Available now. Watch it today. Go to salemnow.com. salemnow.com.
Good morning and welcome. Patriot Radio News Hour. Joe and Jason here on this Tuesday. I hope it finds you well out there. Our toll-free number, 800-951-0592. The website at allamericangold.com. And, you know, as the year of chaos continues to unfold, you know, we had the big Fed announcement last week, maybe going to be higher for longer, and we've been very critical of the massive mistakes that have brought us to this boom and bust cycle, particularly having to do with the Federal Reserve and the Treasury Department. Of course, who runs the Treasury Department? Oh, that's right, Janet Yellen, who was the former head of the Federal Reserve. And it just goes to show you, if you do your job poorly enough, right, I guess there's always room for a promotion in government. And that's what we've allowed for. We've allowed for this private entity to somehow be all-seeing, all-knowing. Doesn't matter how many mistakes they make, mistake after mistake after mistake. And it'll be an easy ones. Who in their right mind thought, I got a great idea. Let's bring interest rates to zero. And then let's leave them there for 15 plus years. And then on top of that, convince the government, our elected officials, to spend like crazy. Because that's what they did. I mean, what could possibly go wrong with that? Right? Well, nothing if rates stayed zero forever, I guess, right? You could, for a little while anyway. But the second rates aren't zero, all the debt, and I mean all of it, now becomes a huge albatross around the necks of the countries and the citizens, of the people that were forced to deal with this. And this is exactly what we find ourselves in for here in the United States. Stan Druckenmiller, he's one of those guys, I tell you, got to watch this guy. How did he become a billionaire? Why do billionaires give him their money? Well, just for so you can understand, he made all of his fortune in currency markets, in particular shorting the British pound in the 90s, and became an extremely wealthy individual. And today he's out there warning, hey, guess what? America, we got a big problem here. We got a massive problem. And he started taking shots. He was taking shots at Joe Biden. He was taking shots at Bidenomics. He took a bunch of shots at Janet Yellen as well. And Jason, these seem to be so obvious, right? So idiotic. But again, the idea that, we're just trying to help and everything, we can have good times forever. No, you can't. And they made dumb decision after dumb decision after dumb decision, and guess what the reward was? Here's a promotion. I mean, that's what we gave them.
That's what we gave them, Joe. We gave the Fed the power to do anything they want with the monetary system in this country, and eventually, let's face it, this was imported from Europe. This is the European banking system. And once it was put into place and cemented in, and then you can blame the Depression and World War II for that. Whatever they want is their cup of tea. They can do whatever they want. And we talked, played that clip yesterday about how dumb some of these guys are, but that's just the economics guys. The bankers at the top, they know what's going on. They're not the dumb guys. And I've been studying cryptos and really learning a lot about them, and I'm starting to figure out that these are the same guys, these bankers that brought you your cryptocurrencies, your Bitcoin, and everything that you're dealing with. And if they created it, and most likely they were working on it since the 1990s before they released Bitcoin, for example, in 2009, I think your 0% rates you were talking about a bunch, Joe, at the beginning, what's going to happen if you do that? I think what happened is exactly what they wanted. That free money got the debt going crazy. They brought the rates up after COVID, and everyone's going to be crying for digital currencies here soon. Yep. So it's everybody just walked right into that trap, Joe.
Walked right into it, was blasting Janet Yellen, Fed Chair Jay Powell, called Bidenomics a complete failure, and consumers are paying the price in terms of higher inflation. There does seem to be a lot more recognition of the fiscal situation facing the United States. So the one positive thing is he says, right. People are starting to recognize, oh man, what the heck did we do, right? What did we do here? Everybody seems to get it, but Janet Yellen and Jay Powell, and they just keep spending. I think it's dumb politically because it's causing inflation. It doesn't take a genius to figure this out. The average American is getting hurt by inflation. So, wow. Dumb doesn't take a genius to figure this out. Yeah, it doesn't, which kind of leads to Jason's point. Wasn't this the plan all along? We'll be back after the break. 800-951-0592. Joe and Jason, Patriot Radio News Hour on this Tuesday. We look in here at the markets. The Dow's up 100. The S&P's up 15. The Nasdaq's up 34. All on this belief that this jobs report on Friday, where it was 175,000 jobs, the unemployment rate was 3.9, was somehow horrible. Oh, my gosh, what a catastrophe. Yes, the Fed can cut rates again. Yes, it's back on the table. I don't believe it. But the 10-year note. So listen, the 10-year note touched 4.75. Remember, we said that's kind of the do or die line, and they got it off of that. 4.43 right now. We'll see how these Treasury auctions go this week. I don't anticipate it staying there for very long. The Japanese yen, again, this intervention from last week, are already back to almost 155, so we'll see how long that lasts. Right now, gold's down 5, silver's flat right now. But again, don't be fooled here. You got to be smart here. Right? Everybody, look, we'll get back to Stan Druckenmiller here in a second, but look at what he was talking about. And he's talking about there seems to be some recognition now that we may be in trouble. And here's a guy, like I said, made billions betting against the British pound in the early 90s. And now, essentially, what is he saying? I mean, to put it nicely, he's saying, get ready to start betting against the dollar. Get ready for this ridiculous, this folly of mistake after mistake after mistake. There's going to be a price to pay. And this is why we've been telling you, you got to get more diversified than you've ever been. You have to. Think about what's happened crash after crash after crash. And everybody that was more diversified did well, right? If you were into gold and into silver during the financial crisis, you did real well. How about the dot-com crisis, right? Think about how well you did then. I mean, gold's like $250, $300. It's $2,325 right now. That's pretty good. But you got to get more diversified than that. If you've got $50,000 or more, maybe it's in an IRA, maybe it's sitting in your bank account, wherever it may be, check out our friends at Y-Refi. If you qualify, you get up to 10.25% fixed rate of return. You can lock that in for 5 years. Think about it. You mean 2025, I can get 10.25%? Yep. How about 2026? Yep. 2027, 2028, 29. Right? This whole thing, I'm just telling you right now, it is setting up for another major bust cycle. Be prepared. Do yourself a favor. At least check them out. InvestYRefi.com. That's the word invest, the letter Y, REFY.com. But just make it easy. Just call 888-Y-REFI-24. So, comes out. Take shots at Janet Yellen, at Jay Powell, at the ridiculous spending that the Biden administration has been doing, and then said, another policy mistake by Jay Powell, saying that the Fed was still trying to bring inflation down, and then they decided that they were going to start talking about rate cuts, Jason. Got the market all excited, said they literally loosened financial standards, right? Everybody thought the rate cuts were coming. He said the Fed seemed to be at a good spot, and they made another major policy mistake. He made the analogy that the Fed was getting ready to score, right? Getting ready to score on inflation, getting ready to stamp it out, made another policy blunder and essentially fumbled it, and now says asset prices, easing conditions, the Fed has set up the rebirth of inflation. And then he went out and said the Fed is now put the U.S. economy in extreme danger here. On top of it, the economic policies coming out of Wall Street would give them an F, saying that it's a Here's what he said. They misdiagnosed COVID. Oh, God, man, what a mistake that was. Thought the economy was going into a depression. The Fed did it too. The Treasury is still acting like we're in a depression. How many times have I said it, right, Jason? We're spending like we're in the middle of an emergency, and it's ridiculous. It really is. The freight train's coming.
Well, and I've said that some of the behavior of the Fed seems like they're trying to fight a depression that still is coming. You know, there's a lot of there's a lot of indication that because here's the funny thing is, if you want a depression, worldwide depression would happen if the United States government decided to stop spending money. Can you imagine how quickly everything would stop if the United States government just stopped spending money? We would go into recession immediately and depression immediately after that, and it would go to no end. Unfortunately, that's just the way it is. The government's that big; they spend that much money. And if you have a debt money system, you have to keep the flow of money going to keep your system running. And, Joe, what does the Fed see? That they have to keep pushing the amount of money into the system to stop the eventual depression. At some point, the whole reset or changing of the monetary system is probably going to come with a big, major thud, a big, huge crash. And that's when they'll make their move, right?
People don't realize. You got to know this. You got to... and we forget it sometimes. The debt markets. What is the job of the debt market? It's simple. It's price discovery. What's something worth? What is Apple worth? Right? What is Google worth? What is blah, blah, blah worth? What is a Treasury note worth? What's a 2-year note worth? A 5-year? It's price discovery. And what the Treasury and the central bank have been doing is trying to prevent it. They're trying to prevent price discovery. Think about Japan last week. What were they trying to do? Trying to prevent price discovery on the Japanese yen. Right? And so Stan Druckenmiller says the Treasury continuing to act like we're in a depression. They've spent and spent and spent. The fear now is that the spending and the resulting interest rates on the debt that have been created are going to crowd out innovations and other things that would have normally taken place. And he's so right, because when so much of the money has to go towards interest on things, and and again, remember, the tax man is coming now. There's no doubt about it. Right? Innovation is going to take a hit. He's kind of, Jason calls it like maybe the next dark age. Right? And it's going to be a lot of lack of innovation just because so much of everything has to go towards what's been going on with the debt. And then he took another shot at Janet Yellen. He goes, with the Biden administration, I'm worried about stagflation. Now remember, Jay Powell last week, he didn't see stag or inflation. Another policy miss, according to Stan Druckenmiller. Who would I trust more? The guy that's made billions in currencies, or Jay Powell, who's done nothing? Well, I guess that's he watches data. That's what he does, right? He watches data. I'm watching the data. Then he went on to attack Janet Yellen again. And this is, remember, we're talking about price discovery. With all the tricks that Yellen has been using to manipulate the yield curve, with the way the Fed has now seemed to reignited financial conditions, basically talking about inflation. The inflationary outcome is not good. I also fear regulation and everything else that's going to prevent productivity. And this is the thing that happens with nations in decline, right? All of a sudden, you start swimming in this debt, you start manipulating, you start believing your own press clippings, right? They've manipulated all of this debt to not allow for price discovery. It is essentially allowed for, well, what does it do? It allows for bubbles. That's what it allows for. And now the problem is with all the tricks that Janet Yellen, you guys don't even know, and I tried to tell you, when interest rates were at zero, we should have, first of all, we shouldn't have been spending like drunken sailors, first off. But as we did it, we should have been selling 10-year, 20-year, 30, especially 30. We should have sold as many 30-year notes at 0.5% or whatever they were as humanly possible. They didn't do that. What did they do instead? They loaded up 1 year, 2 year, some 3 year. And now this avalanche is coming, and we're in it. And Stan Druckenmiller keeps saying, hey, people are finally starting to realize what another huge policy mistake that's been made. So when you think about what he just talked about today. Policy mistakes by the central bank. having rates at zero for all of that time. That was number one. Spending like we're in depressions, which continues to this day, number two. Number three, not selling enough long-term debt when the rates were low. Why didn't they do? Well, they wanted everyone to buy a house they wanted you to have a 3 or 4% mortgage. That was why. So they actually created massive housing inflation. Why can't anybody afford a home now? That's why. Think about the horrible mistake. And none of them got fired. We're not even talking about inflation's transitory. Right? Let's not forget that one. And then seemingly once they started to at least get a little bit of control on inflation, Jason, they immediately went, well, we're going to start cutting rates. And now inflation's back again.
You know, inflation never really left, did it, Joe? It didn't really. It just flared up after a bunch of money printing and reindeer games by the Fed, right? But now we've got inflation that people are starting to recognize. You know, they had that secret inflation, they had that quiet inflation going on for how many years? And, you know, I remember they couldn't get the inflation up to 2% for a while. They were, come on, if we could just get it back up to 2% because of the deflative pressures that were going on after the housing crash. But here we are. Here we are, right, Joe? Inflation is roaring and ready to get worse.
But yet, Jay Powell and Janet Yellen want you to believe that rate cuts are coming. Why? Because they're trying to manipulate the debt markets to disallow for price discovery. 800-951-0592, Patriot Radio News Hour. Joe and Jason here on this Tuesday. I got a incredible opportunity today on $10 Indians. We've got almost 100 of them, so that's a lot, especially on $10 Indians. Obviously, one of the premier coins that the United States minted. It's the Lady Liberty with the Indian headdress on. But today, 1 through 19, $1,295. I mean, you're saving, that's a $30 savings. You buy 20 or more, $1,290. So a $10 Indian. If you buy 20 or more for the same as, so that'd be the same price as a $10 lib. That almost never happens. Every once in a while in the $5 Indian we get this. Very rarely do you see it on a $10 Indian. Even if you only can afford one, you're buying it only for $5 more than a $10 Liberty. It's just a great opportunity, very limited. I don't even remember the last time we ran $10 Indians. But we've got them today, $1,295, buy 20 or more at $1,290, right? And essentially you're buying a $10 Indian for the same price as a $10 Liberty at 800-951-0592. And it's kind of interesting, Jason. Central banks continuing to buy gold. Now sovereign wealth funds have started doing the same thing, which is, man, that's really a big development. Sovereign wealth funds almost exclusively only keep their money in cash, or if it's not in cash, very short dated. Like they'll buy a lot of 3-month, 6-month, maybe a 1-year treasury, but usually they like to be very, very liquid. But I think it's just telling you the depths of what is going on in the financial markets. And then today, another sign that the consumer is struggling. Disney talking about streaming services, right? Fell short, right? Not enough people want to fork. I have no idea what Disney, because you got to, all of these, they all have their own little streaming service. $10, I don't know, $12, whatever it is. Jason, $10 here, $10 there, $12 there, $50. Next thing you know, you got 8 streaming services and it's $150, right? To be able to watch all this stuff. And the consumer saying, you know what? We just don't have it anymore. And also Disney gave very weak guidance when it comes to what is going on with the consumer. So another, I guess, example of the consumer starting to show the stress that Stan Druckenmiller's been talking about.
Let's face it, what's on TV isn't all that good nowadays anyways, so it's not that hard of a decision. It's not a hard decision.
I can't watch anything they put out anymore.
Exactly. These companies have these agendas now, and then you got to be careful what you're watching. And when you pinch and pennies, it's like, well, I don't really need to watch that stuff anyways. And you click, you just shut that off, and enough memberships go away, and suddenly a streaming service goes down. I mean, I know Alex Jones used to say he spent $1 million, I don't know what it was, a month on bandwidth, it costs a lot of money just to stream movies out to all over the damn world. So he's, I can see where Disney's going to have some trouble here. They're pushing their movies back. These $1 billion movies are pushing them back a year, pushing them back 6 months, pushing them back 2 years because they don't have the income to continue to do what they do, which is entertainment.
And then how about this one? And this is, if you have a trust, you need to pay attention here. There's been a major change in rules by the FDIC, and I think this is another example of how weak the banking system is. So it used to be that if your money was in a trust, there was unlimited cap on FDIC insurance. So if you had $10 million in a trust in a bank, if the bank went under, you still got your $10 million. Gone. The FDIC now says that it will insure a trust account only up to $1.25 million, which really isn't very much money at all when you think about people that have trust out there. Like I said before, there used to be no limit. It was a legal arrangement to ensure individual assets are to be distributed to specific people. So let's just say, as an example, you did real well in life. You had $10 million when you passed, but you wanted to ensure. Well, you know what? I got 2 sons. I've got a daughter. I've got grandkids. And I want to make sure that the money goes to where it's supposed to go, and it'll just sit here and it'll be there for these people when the criteria, whether it's age, education, whatever it may be, when criterias are met. The FDIC now saying, nope, that's no longer going to be the rule, and will now only insure up to $1.25 million. Jason, this is a really big deal here, and I think it's going to have a lot of effects with people that have these trusts that have a lot of money. Like a lot of times, maybe they got 6, 7, 8 grandkids, and they're all young. Hey, I don't want them to have this money till they're 21, but I don't want to give it to my kids to invest or some guy to invest it and lose it all, right? I want it to be there, just something now where, once again, I think you're starting to see the weakness in this system because the FDIC knows, oh, my gosh, these trust accounts, it'll just wipe out everybody. Wow.
And, would they even have a $1.25 million to even insure them with, right? Would they be able to even do it? That's the other thing. It's like, where does the money come from? Is it going to actually be insured? The insurance companies don't seem to be as stable as they used to be, Joe, and trustworthy. So, no, these more cracks, right? More cracks in the foundation of the system that's in place, Joe.
Yeah, and so it's something where, again, if you had 2.5 million as an example. Let's just say you had 2.5 million, and you had 10 beneficiaries. Well, that's only 250,000 apiece. We should be able to all get our money. Nope. Now you only get 1.25 for the 10 of you. Yeah, it's a big deal. Patriot Radio News Hour. That's why we keep telling you. Get your assets into gold. Be safe with your money. We'll be back after the break. 800-951-0592. Again, today's special, and it's a good one today. Some days are just better than others. $10 Indians. We almost had about close to 100 of them to start. They're $1,295, 20 or more, $1,290. So essentially you're buying $10 Indians for the same price as the $10 Liberties. And remember, the Indians went with the St. Gaudens series coins. And then, of course, it was the Spanish flu, right, the plague. Right, 1916, they thought the coins had the plague on them, so they stopped minting the Indians. I think the $10 Indian got minted for like 12 years, something like that, maybe 13 in total. There's just not very many of them out there. That's why they always carry a big premium, but not today. Today's your opportunity. You're looking for, fractional half-ounce gold pieces. Great way to go today. $10 Indians, $12.95, 20 or more at $12.90. Don't forget, we still got the 10th ounce. Today's the last day on the 10th ounce, too, by the way. Just to remind everybody, $285, 50 or more, $280. So you got a couple of good options here in the gold markets today. 800-951-0592. But, what a difference. You had Stanley Druckenmiller go out on CNBC today and just eviscerate Janet Yellen, eviscerate Jay Powell, eviscerate whoever, because it's not Biden, whoever the heck is running Biden's economic policy, right? Just eviscerating them. I mean, remember Alan Greenspan? Remember they used to tell, he's the maestro. He can do no wrong. And that was the belief that they wanted everybody to have, that the Fed was bulletproof, the Treasury's bulletproof. Now you got people, Jason, in broad daylight, trying to tell people, he's warning you. Oh, man, these guys, they have really screwed this up. And the one positive thing he had to say is, well, here's the good news. At least some people are starting to recognize that we're getting ready to go off another fiscal cliff. I mean, that was the good news, Jason.
Yeah, but the majority of people don't know what's getting ready to happen, so they will not be ready.
Look at the 10-year note today, right? Look at the 10-year note, these paper guys, right? Oh, we got it down to 4.42 because, we're going to get rate cuts. And, of course, if you listen to a guy that actually knows what he's talking about, that'll be that would maybe the biggest mistake of them all. Maybe a rate cut, Jason. It sounded like to me that's exactly what Druckenmiller was saying. Yeah, go ahead and do that. Let's see what happens. You're going to ruin everything.
What are the Fed? One of the terms they used in the past, irrational exuberance.
That was an Alan Greenspan term, right? Yeah.
25-point cut in rate would create irrational exuberance, I believe. I think there's your risk, right, Joe? And the markets would go sky high, gold would go crazy, and then suddenly inflation. Suddenly you go to the market and a gallon of milk is $25 before you know it.
The only thing I can think is, and I hate it. I want them to just be stupid. I mean, Stan Druckenmiller called Janet Yellen dumb today. Just dumb. Everything she's done is dumb. And I want to believe they're just dumb. I do. Let's fire them and get people in there that aren't dumb. Problem is, I don't think they're dumb. Jenny Ellen's a lot of things. She's a very smart woman. She really is. Jason says it all the time that this is the plan. They're doing it on purpose, and I got to believe this. This is idiotic stuff that's happening. Why are you trying to prevent price discovery? It makes no sense to me. They want this thing to eventually crash. I think they're ready, right? They weren't ready in 2007 and 2008. They weren't ready yet. And based on what came out of the Bank of International Settlements and the IMF last week, right, that new platform XC, it sure looks like they're ready to bring in this digital currency, which it's not coming without a crash of epic proportions, and people will willingly give up their freedoms because they're going to tell us that this is the salvation, because they need to control all of the money. I mean, think how bad these debts really are. Jason, they need the ability to control it all, and that's how they're going to do it.
Well, and the question for anyone listening is, well, why do they need to control everything? Well, financially, why do they need to control everything? Well, because their system is broken so badly that to continue this system further, they must have more control over not just the creation of the money and the interest rates. They want to know who's got the money, when the money's out there, and how you're going to spend it, and control how you're going to spend it, earn it, all of that. And so that way they can...
Public enemy number one.
Yep.
Anybody who's got large sums of money in the bank, right, you are public enemy number one. Why do you think the FDIC just changed these trust rules? Too much money in the bank. Get out there. Buy stocks. Buy treasuries. Yes. Right. Get ready. You need to spend it. Yeah. Once they have that digital currency, I promise you, it won't be long before you get negative rates in your new electronic accounts. I can almost guarantee it. Patriot Radio News Hour, final segment coming up.
Final segment of the Patriot Radio News Hour. You know, we got this phone number. It's 800-951-0592. That's the phone number that you can buy, well, 10th ounce gold eagles for $285, right, Joe? You can buy $10 Indians today. It's a good day to get gold. Every day is a good day to get gold, right, Joe? Every day is a good day, but $10 Indians, we don't sell these regularly, so this is a good one to jump in on. And the 10th ounce gold eagles. The more gold you possess, the more in order your house will be, Joe. The more secure you'll feel, because I've always said for a long time since I joined with Patriot, when the customers of Patriot Trading Group walk in my door, they're the most relaxed people I've ever met in my life. Because let's face it, the most stressful thing that usually hits a family is financing. And when your finances don't look good, there's a lot more stress. And we didn't make the world, Joe and I, that we exist in, but we are trying to adapt to what it is. And gold and silver is a great way to adapt to financial hardships, Joe.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially, listen, if we're going to prevent price discovery, right, that just tells you all that you really need to know about what really is, going on in the economy. Because if their policies were really good, right, I mean, if they were really doing what was in the best interest, then you wouldn't have to worry about price discovery, right? Because they wouldn't want to manipulate. We don't have to manipulate it. We've essentially, ever since really the dot-com crash, really, ever since then, we've lived in a manipulated world where the boom and bust cycles happen more often, they're more frequent, and worse, the worst part is, Jason, they're more destructive. They're more destructive on people's wealth. And you start seeing what we're talking about. Why does Wall Street need to crash 30, 40, 50%? That doesn't make sense. Well, it's simple. Because they allow for bogus price discovery. right? And listen to what Stan Druckenmiller said. The tricks that Janet Yellen has been playing with the money. Take Social Security. They go, it won't be done until 2035. They added 5 years to Medicare, Medicaid. Now, here's what's funny. That was the headline for you. Then the very last paragraph, they said, well, this is all going to change next year. Right? Why? Because they're playing tricks with the money, Jason, and they don't want you to know what the real price discovery is. And this is exactly what Stan Druckenmiller's telling you, and he's telling you. Listen, I hate to tell you this, but you know how rich? I'm already super rich. I'm going to be filthy stinking rich because these guys are setting up the dollar to get hammered.
Dollars, all fiat currencies are failing. They're always failing. You know this because over time, Joe, the amount of things you can buy with those fiat currencies, it can be any of them across the world, you get less stuff for it. Let's face it, the only reason you're out there working for money is that you can get the stuff you need, pay for your energy, pay for your rent, buy clothes for your kids to go to school, buy a car. Well, when it takes more and more fiat currency units to get those things, they're failing, and the dollar's failing pretty fast, Joe.
Why do we want 2% inflation? Don't we really want no percent inflation? Wouldn't that be better? Oh, no. Well, for you and I, it would be. For them, no. Patriot Radio News Hour. $10 Indians. Come on, man. $12.95. 20 or more, $12.90.
3-star General Michael J. Flynn, head of the Pentagon Intelligence Agency, knew all the government's dirty secrets.
He was one of the most respected generals in the military.
Flynn knew what the intel world had been up to. He understood its funding.
He ordered the first audit of the use of contractors. This set off alarm bells.
The explosive new documentary, Flynn, Deliver the Truth, Whatever the Cost, uncovers the facts behind this scandal.
Flynn told the truth. He was the most dangerous person for Donald Trump to hire.
I find out the worst enemy that I'm going to face in my life is right here in America. They took my assessment and they wanted me to change it. And I was like, I'm not changing it.
They had to get rid of Flynn.
With in-depth interviews, archival footage, and never-before-seen personal records of the man behind the headlines.
I just felt like I was drowning.
Flynn, Deliver the Truth, Whatever the Cost. Available now. Watch it today. Go to salemnow.com. salemnow.com.